Hi, I'm DK Wright, and welcome to Create TV. Hi everyone, I'm DK Wright with UrbanWord NYC. I am a digital media manager. It started when I started working with the mayor's office of New York City in like 6 years ago. So started doing that, and I got partnered with some nonprofits through AmeriCorps. It was called Learning Leaders, and I've been working doing their external affairs and managing their volunteers. And the manager said, the board of trustees saw your resume and they want you to work alongside them with their external affair projects and creative management. So I started to do more digital work. And after being there for a year, I decided to go to UrbanWord NYC, where I used to be a youth in the programming there. Poetry, really, as an artist, first and foremost, since the 4th grade, poetry has definitely given me a channel to write and express myself, but then also listening to other voices that have so many other concerns and heart behind it. It really gave me the motivation to let other young people or anyone who just likes poetry express themselves. So having that background and seeing where creative writing stands in the corporate world and like the nonprofit world, I just found that being expressive on paper has transferred into the social media space so well, and that's where I feel centered. There was a moment when I just thought, this is definitely what I want to do. I entered this NAACP writing contest in high school, and I won an award for it, like 2nd in the state. So at that moment, family, friends, all acknowledged me as like a poet. It didn't really get the, oh, you should be a doctor, lawyer conversation anymore. Now it's like, okay, we'll respect what you want to do. There's a lot. The biggest misconception about poets is that we only write, that we're all like lovey-dovey, or that we'll end up writing about you, or that everything we write about is some personal experience. Some things we write about are just simply because we're creative and we cherish storytelling. But other times we'll write about something that's like really dear to us, and it may be in a metaphor, it may be coded, but it's all gonna be honest. Being a first generation Jamaican, my mother always told me that I'm different. Always told me that I am not like everyone else. I grew up very sheltered, so not knowing what the world actually was when she was telling me this always was like, well, why am I different? How am I different? What are the things that are actually making me stand out as far as character is concerned? But the root disciplines from being in such like a gated community, first and foremost, as far as like being raised with certain Caribbean principles, like hard work ethic and just really not complaining about certain things, has made me stand out to where I'll be around certain people and they're complaining about their job. I love my job. Like, Jamaicans are stereotyped to sometimes having more than one job. You have 3 jobs, you have 4 jobs, but that's what it's about right now. It's not about like how many jobs you have, it's about how many things you can get done efficiently, being a hybrid person. So being this person who's been moving all my life, I've been a transient being. I've learned to adapt, I've learned to be flexible, I've learned to fill the part, but also my senses have become heightened to just understanding my surroundings when I step into a room. So I know what my brand is, but also understanding what's the need of the room, how am I feeling that, what are the tensions that are in this space. And it was almost like a superpower because I'd go into these spaces when I was young and I didn't really understand what was happening, and I'd feel the tensions and it was very distracting to me. It took away from the point where I was even in those spaces. So what if I was going to class, I was like, wow, I'm the only like boy in the classroom for this particular class. Or I'll go to a conference and I'll realize I'm the only black male in the room, or the only person of like Caribbean descent. So being very aware of this has made me sensitive to other people and helped me curtail what I need to be saying or doing at that particular time in order to be most efficient. Do it as fast as possible. Do it when it hits. My creative process really is, I have friends who would have conversations about certain stuff, and when I talk to them, they're like, oh, that's my Facebook status. I'm like, no, I'm not gonna, don't do that. Like respect the thought process that I went through. So I really sometimes just keep thoughts to myself and just stack them. And when the time is right, I'll just write all about it. I'll just sit down and really focus and connect those dots. Where do I draw the world around me, conflict and tensions, like especially like internal conflicts, like things that I can't find the words for, that search to make things sound politically correct really troubles me sometimes. So sometimes I'll just sit down and just write out a story about how it's not politically correct. It doesn't really sound great, and I take this really ugly feeling, this really ugly circumstance, and I try to mold it into something that someone from another perspective can read and say, wow, like I relate to that. It may not be to the same particular extent that I wrote it, but they can feel that empathy, and that's what I really strive for sometimes when someone reads my work. It's like, I know exactly what that feels like. It may be because you lost a dog and I lost a family member, but even though it's two different people, it's two different concepts and beings, places and times, the human empathy is something that we don't need to be conditioned to feel. It's, if you have a heart and ears, you just listen and say, I understand that. Blessings by Big Sean. Kanye West and Big Sean got this other song that's out right now. Oh my gosh. Why am I forgetting the name of the song? Oh, All Day with Kanye. That is like the song right now. Just get up, get out. Just really think about how important the grind is and how important the hustle is. It's not something that you clock out of. There's no days off. So when you just keep those gears turning, I do this all day. I just went to a wedding yesterday, and I met someone in the audience who was a friend of a friend. I'm like, hey, I have this thing coming up. You know someone? He's like, yo, why don't you ask my boy? Perfect person, perfect time. Like, there is no days off. I draw creativity from everywhere. I draw like people together from anywhere. So those songs right now really have embodied how I feel and have become somewhat of an anthem to the daily, I won't even call it routine, but the daily energy that I try to give each project and person that I encounter. First and foremost, because I believe that I'm not my paycheck or what I get paid to do, I think that people look at a question like what's missing or what's wrong with the industry that you're in, and they think, well, I'm only in accounting, so I'm only gonna think about numbers. Or I'm in advertising and I'm only gonna think about what advertising is about, or nonprofit. I'd probably say the universal answer that everything touches on as far as like what's missing is social empathy and inclusion. When we hear words like diversity, some people like freeze up, some people like smile. It has a lot of different guttural reactions to people. But when you have social empathy professionally, where it's like, I don't care who you are because of this difference and that difference, when you can celebrate people and really say, you know what, I appreciate who you are and you got the work done, or I appreciate the work that you do and I respect you. I think that what's missing is that sometimes we'll not like something about a person, and because we don't like them, that means we don't like the work they do, we don't like the legacy that they're creating, we close doors on them. It's all great to have a really great personal brand and narrative for yourself, but some people aren't trying to be inclusive to that environment that you're trying to create. I think that people try to find like the easy way. Don't wait for permission. We look for permission via acceptance from other people hearing that that's what we want to do, or we look for permission by someone paying us to do it, where it's like, well, that's what I want to do, but I'm not getting paid to do it, so I'm not going to do it. That's not helping anyone. That's not helping you practice your craft. That's not fulfilling the need of the work that needs to be done. When it comes down to people who really want to get into being a creative, we all strive for some sort of level of perfection, but perfection often leads to procrastination. And if you're worrying about getting it right off the bat, you're still not doing it. So you really need to just do it and focus on the work and focus on your presence being on the end result. Like, hey, I got to see that happen. If it's not I got to see that happen, I got to speak about it. If it's not being able to speak about it, then you're too far. You need to take some steps closer into the overall conversation, because even though you may feel locked out of certain areas, that doesn't last forever. Like, knowledge is power. They say knowing is half the battle, but that's a lie. It's about a quarter of it. Once you know about it, you got to be able to do something about it, but without prior preparation to use a knowledge wisely, you'll end up using a sword as a shovel. Like, it's not going to be very effective. You need to know your tools and how to use them to be most effective. So getting out there and doing the work and not waiting for permission is something that I would wish everyone to do, whether or not they're creative, whether they're just like an accountant or just a doer or a thinker. Just getting out there and applying themselves. It's said that oppression is the lack of choices. Artistic freedom, I would probably say, is the extreme solution to not being oppressed. When you can look at a problem and be happy that this problem has given you the opportunity to address it, that's artistic freedom. It's looking at a wall and thinking about all the ways you can destroy it. It's like, I have a wall now. Like, I could jump over it, I can break through it, I can go around it, I could dig under it, I can use it to my advantage as leverage. I'd probably say that's what artistic freedom is. It's being able to have control of how you answer the problem. But sometimes we say, we don't want problems. I say, embrace the resistance and feel comfortable in that. Like, you know what, there's resistance here, and instead of running from it, I'm going to stay and I'm going to look it in the eye, and I'm not going to let my problems dictate what my abilities are. Artistic freedom is, hello problem, I'm solution, it's going down. So I will create a professional counterculture that will capitalize on downtime, optimizing it so that way you can have professional and personal communities, really harnessing the power of this human capital, so that way people won't have to wait for a paycheck to pronounce themselves, where you don't have to wait for a circumstance to push you. You'll have social accountability to the duty that you said that you're about. That's it. I just want to be a part of that.
Bye.